Research and creation, which are very innovative, are a cornerstone in the 7 previous categories. Also in this last category, whose aim is to mitigate poverty and inequality. In the past century, $2.7 trillion have been dedicated to cooperation for development around the world. But up until very recently, we didn't have any techniques to measure the efficacy of that aid, such as the technique developed by a group of distinguished economists from the MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The importance of this conceptual and methodological approach has led the jury to distinguish the MIT lab for the study of poverty, represented here by Steri Flo. The jury has been chaired by Professor Mark R. Rosenzweig of the Economic Growth Center of the Yale University. Professor Jorge Marcia Montalvo, who is a member of the jury, will read the jury's decision. First of all, before I read our decision, I would like to thank the BBVA Foundation for having included, as part of the Frontiers of Knowledge Awards, a category dedicated to development cooperation. This is very important for researchers in this area.
The 2008 BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in the Development Cooperation category is awarded to the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, also known as JPal, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. JPal has successfully promoted the scientific evaluation of development interventions by using randomized trials applied to areas including education, health, and financial markets. This method has been shown to be a valuable tool for answering specific policy questions. By synthesizing scientific contributions to development using experiments and building on field experience, the work of JPal has led to the expanded use of this approach by development practitioners and researchers. The method has been extended to policy questions where nobody had previously thought to use it, and in some cases had led to very important policy actions. On behalf of the jury, I want to congratulate Esther Duflo, Director of the Poverty Action Lab.
Madame la Ministre, Monsieur le Président, Messieurs les membres du jury, chers collègues, chers amis, j'ai des notes, mais elles sont en français, and I will speak in English actually on behalf of people in the public, so you will apologize for any slips. I'm very honored on behalf of the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab to receive this prize today from the BBVA Foundation. As it was said, this prize was awarded not to me personally, but to JPal, the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, as a whole. In particular, I'm here today on behalf of my 2 co-directors, Abhijit Banerjee and Rachel Glenister, both from MIT, like me. And I think it's very fit that this prize should be awarded not to one person in particular, but to the entire lab, because it is really a collective undertaking which involves more than 30 researchers, a network of 30 researchers in dozens of institutions around the world, over hundreds staff members, students and former students all around the world as well. Many field partners, NGO activists, policymakers, people in governments, and of course, all the people who are collecting the data, thousands of them. And finally, last but not least, all the people who are subject of who are beneficiaries of these policies and from whom we are getting the crucial data that allow us to tell whether or not such and such policy is effective or not. And those are in the hundreds and thousands. Together, our objective is to improve the efficiency of the fight against poverty by making sure that decisions are based on sound scientific basis. And we do this in 3 ways. First, we set up field experiments in order to test the efficiency of particular actions to fight poverty, from building schools to distributing textbooks to microfinance to having women in politics, and testing those policies with the rigor of medical trials. The experiments are randomized experiments where strictly comparable people are compared to each other, which allow to draw firm conclusions about the effectiveness of a particular approach. The second thing we are doing is to try to go further than running those experiments and to train and encourage others to do it. So we have trained hundreds and hundreds of policymakers around the world in these methods, and we also, of course, forming students and staff. The final thing we are doing is to try to ensure that those results make their way in the policy discourse and in the policy process. And this is something that is a very time-consuming and involved process, but perhaps the most rewarding. Our ambition is that hundreds of millions of people every year benefit directly from our research by being the beneficiaries of policies that have proved to be effective, as opposed to policies that someone one day has decided to try out. Other than the people I've already mentioned, I would like to thank a few people. Since I'm representing hundreds of people, I cannot thank the family of all of them one by one, but I suppose I'll be happy to be mentioned anyway. So I would like to mention the institutions that made it possible for us to do what we are doing, starting with MIT, who believed in us almost before us and gave us the funding to get the adventure started. Jameel, who gave us the biggest endowment to get us started in this enterprise. Institutions that have hosted Poverty Action Lab around the world, the Paris School of Economics for JPal Europe, the Institute for Financial Management Research in Chennai for JPal South Asia, the Catholic University in Chile for JPal Latin America. We are, of course, finally infinitely grateful for the Scientific Council and for the BBVA Foundation and for the jury to have recognized the value of what we are trying to do. By creating this category development cooperation and by giving this prize to JPal, the foundation and the jury have recognized the role that research and researchers can play in the world. I firmly believe that science can transform the world and in this way also become better science. And I think this award and all the awardees have firmly demonstrated that. I'm infinitely proud to be part of this group. I'm extremely grateful that this tradition started today, and I'm also looking forward to the series of people who are going to share this prize in the future. Thank you.